Yo, ladies and gents, Booma here, and welcome back to another Rocket League video. Today's topic is going to cover something in the game that I haven't seen talked about much. I've not seen many people go into depth or break down how this certain function works. Today's video is going to be about holding down your acceleration while you're performing any aerial mechanics. Rocket League being a momentum-based game played at top speed, I feel this isn't something that most people think about, let alone try to micromanage while playing the game. So today I'm going to be not only showcasing the differences and how you can utilize it, but also how it works into most mechanics in the game. Before we get into that, I just want to remind you guys that I am a streamer over on Twitch. If you guys want to talk to me in real time or even see me play other games, then come stop on over for the vibes. I'm also a coach for Rocket League. If you guys are interested in receiving a replay analysis or one-on-one session with me, feel free to join the Discord. The links will be beneath the video. Also, if you want to show some extra support, don't forget to use code BOOMA in the Fortnite and Rocket League shops. Without further ado, let's get right into this. Right, so I was thinking of a way I could showcase this to you guys, and I think the best way to do it is to line my car up with something like on the pitch. So as you can see right here, when I just normally jump, right, this is me just jumping without accelerating. Obviously the car is not going to move, right, and it's not going to cross that line. Now, if you hold down your acceleration while you jump, you can see how much of a difference this actually makes, right? How much it actually moves the car forwards. And this is something that I don't think a lot of people understand and how it affects your mechanics, and especially the mechanics where you're trying to control the ball. Let's say, for example, like a pop off the wall or, you know, a flip reset. I feel like people don't think about how that could affect your momentum whilst doing any type of advanced mechanic, right? So at least in my personal experience in the game, anytime I'm trying to do something with a lot of control, or I'm trying to keep the ball close but, you know, maintain some speed, these are all things that you can do while accelerating, right? I could definitely go for a triple reset while I'm holding my acceleration, but I tend to get a lot more weird flip resets, right? As if my car is sliding off the ball. Now, if you were to think about how an actual flip reset works, right? Why the mechanic of a flip reset works is because your car is recognizing the bottom of the ball as a surface, correct? So if you were to think about the bottom of the ball like any other surface in the game, like a wall or stuff like that, obviously if you're going to hold your acceleration, you know, on a wall, you're going to move on the wall. So I think those types of resets where you end up in front of the ball or you slide off of the ball or you might even get a glitch reset is, you know, something that's more likely to happen if you're holding your acceleration while you do chain resets or a flip reset. So this is one of the areas where I figured it's a lot better to just not hold my acceleration for. Now in terms of aerial mechanics, I will try to get some examples and show off, you know, when you're just trying to beat somebody to the ball. Because obviously when you accelerate in the air and you're full boosting while accelerating, you're probably going to go a lot faster than somebody who's not accelerating, right? And only boosting, only using their boost to propel themselves forward. So obviously if you want to be going the fastest speed you possibly can be, then yes, it makes sense to be accelerating and boosting in the air at the same time. When it comes to setups as well, something I realize when I'm coaching players is they're not comfortable at getting light touches while going fast, right? And this is a skill that obviously it's a lot easier to manage your momentum when you are a high-level player and you have tens of thousands of hours within the game. So this is something that even high-level players might not have thought about. Now, at least for me, when you're transitioning in a play, so let's say you make a save and you're rolling the ball up in the corner. This type of setup is great if you can keep it close to yourself, right? Especially if you want to catch somebody out on a counterattack. And something I've noticed is if you just tap your acceleration, you know, you kind of let go of it rather than hold it down the entire time. So usually before this kind of setup, you know, I would let go of my acceleration, and you can see this pop is a lot more controlled and it's a lot more closer to me, and I can get a lot more consecutive follow-up touches on it. As opposed to, you know, if I was going full speed and boosting and accelerating, I'm most likely going to end up hitting this ball away from me and more in the favor of a defender who's going to pre-jump or, you know, whatever the case, try to defend me. So that's probably the first example I would use this in. So anytime I'm trying to get some type of control within the air, And another thing is, you know, just like air dribbling the ball off the wall. I realize it's a lot easier to get the glue, quote unquote, when you're not accelerating. And this is something you guys can go back into your own replays and kind of watch yourself. Obviously, the indication of if you're holding down your acceleration or not would be if your wheels were spinning in the air. And it's pretty obvious. You can see my wheels aren't moving there as I'm kind of air dribbling the ball. If I were to just like kind of fly the ball in like sideways, so you guys can see my wheels are not really spinning, right? And that would be the indicator. So if you go in your replay and your wheels are, you know, full sending it, that means you're usually going to be accelerating. And I think it also helps in terms of like hitting the ball away from yourself. So if you were trying to do something like an air dribble and then you get that final like touch to like pop it over somebody or hit it to the backboard, you know, I think that's something that's a lot easier while accelerating. So there's kind of, you know, a lot of mechanics where you can mix and match this, right? And you can be tapping. You know, acceleration is another thing you could be managing just as much as boost. And it's not something I see like in a lot of videos. You know, you watch other YouTube videos and they give you kind of tips and they're like, oh, well, boost management's massive. But it's also the same case of, you know, knowing how to manage your momentum and your speed, knowing when to brake tap. Another thing I've recognized is, you know, backboard solo plays have become such a part of today's meta, right? So like going full field across from your own backboard for certain mechanics like these. This is something that I also recognize could be a difference if you accelerate or not, right? If you're trying to move quickly, acceleration is great, but you typically end up hitting the ball a lot farther from yourself, right? Because you're going to be going the max speed you possibly could be in that spot. When in reality, if you don't accelerate, you can keep this ball a lot closer. You know, you can actually utilize your boost, and then you can make sure you get a nice, like, you know, attempt at the goal afterwards. So now we're going to go pull some examples from like in-game, and we're going to kind of look at if I'm accelerating or not for certain mechanics. Right, so I found my first example from some ranked 3v3. So this is like an interesting play. It's just like a nice little pass play layoff between me and the player named Expert. So you can see I'm obviously pre-jumping this ball very early, and I just wait for Expert to pass it to me, and then I'm grabbing a reset, you know, kind of last second to kind of change the direction and make it difficult to save for the goalkeepers. So you can notice on my initial aerial, I'm clearly holding down my acceleration, right? I want as much speed as possible on my initial takeoff for the quick aerial, right? You know, I want to get up quick. I want to match kind of the height that Expert's about to play the ball at. Now you can see as this ball kind of approaches me, you know, I kind of let go of my acceleration so that when I grab the reset here, I'm not gonna like, you know, slide off of the reset. And I have kind of like a second of when I actually grab it right here where it stops in a way, right? This is a type of reset I feel like you would either miss-hit, miss-touch, glitch through, whatever the case may be if you were accelerating, or you might even get too much power. So this is one of these spots where I kind of just let up on the acceleration just a little bit, and it's difficult to tell because the wheels are still spinning, right? You know, like the wheels are still going to spin like a little bit just because I just let go of the acceleration. But this is one of these examples that I'm kind of talking about where, you know, I find it useful, and I've had this kind of setup before in the past, and I've definitely missed it because I was accelerating. And we'll talk about that in terms of like double taps and catches in the air as well. This goal right here is a pretty good example of a spot where I feel like I should have been accelerating kind of through my aerial. And this is something that I've also realized acceleration is important for is, you know, when you are touching the ball that's kind of coming towards you and it's difficult to control in a sense, but sometimes your recoil of your car could be because you don't have enough momentum to kind of push through the ball. So in this spot right here, I ended up letting go of my acceleration, you know, kind of before I get to the ball. And you can see my car kind of like gets, you know, hit by the ball in a way, right? So it's a little difficult to recover. But now that I'm not holding my acceleration, I'm not moving forward. I don't end up in front of the ball. I can stay underneath it, right? So this is something that I feel like a lot of players can utilize for different transitional mechs, right? You know, we can pull some professional clips too. I'd be curious to see, you know, some really cool goals. If you guys have any examples of people, you know, doing full backboard plays, or, you know, going off the sidewall, hitting the ball to the ceiling, and then grabbing a reset, feel free to leave it in the comments, and I'll go look at it in like next video or something. But you can see here, me not holding acceleration allows me to get, you know, kind of like a weird scoop reset, which it looks very goofy from the opponent's POV, but it has like a decent amount of power onto it. It's enough power to catch somebody off guard in this spot. And that's something I truly believe me not holding accelerate actually allows me to, you know, not slide off this, not hit the ground, and actually get a nice kind of scoop on it. Here we have another 3v3 example. I've been playing a lot of rank 3s recently just because, you know, I'm trying to get... I haven't touched rank 3s in a very long time. For those of you guys who have been long-time watchers of my channel, you know, I was a rank 3s player my entire career. And obviously 2v2 has taken over the game, so most bubble pros are playing 2v2. But we do need to play 3s now because it does matter for seeding, for qualifiers, or LCS qualifiers. So I haven't touched rank 3v3 in a very long time, so I'm trying to get my rank up. You know, it's kind of degraded. And you can see this is something that I accelerated the entire way through, right? I'm trying to not only go at, you know, the fastest speed I possibly can, because there's a defender about to dunk me if I don't, you know, go play for this. And you can see, obviously, I get the hardest amount of power I possibly can because I'm accelerating and boosting the entire way. So this is one of these spots where it gives me the entire, you know, opportunity to do what I want with this and do it at the speed that I want. And you can see it's very difficult for the defender to even kind of expect something like that because it happens so quick and the pinch is very, very fast, right? So this is one of these spots where I think accelerating is great, right? We have another 2v2 example here. And this is, again, one of these spots where I'm completely accelerating through the entirety of the play, right? You are, you know, definitely capable of getting, you know, controlled touches that you can follow up in succession while accelerating, but that's something that takes, you know, a lot of time and practice. And I kind of regret that I accelerated through this entire thing because I probably could have slowed down a bit here and got some, you know, control or grabbed a reset or something to make it, you know, even more scoreable for myself. I obviously do eventually get it to the backboard and then I try to land the double up, but the player Crimson does very well. The player on the goal line was definitely not saving this. You know, if they got the chance to. So very well defended by Crimson. But you can see this is something that, you know, is in transition of a play, right? So I'm trying to not only beat one player at speed here, but also set myself up for, you know, a certain mechanic. And that's something that I truly think you need to be at top speed for, right? You don't want to let your opponents get their feet set. You don't want to let them recover, you know, especially if they make a mistake. And so I'm trying to do that at the top speed, you know, I possibly can. Now for first touches within the air, I have 2 air dribble dunk kind of clips here. So for these first touches, even though my wheels are spinning, this is something that I've kind of made muscle memory for myself, and that's I would let go of my acceleration from this spot. So that my first touch is nice, my car doesn't recoil, I don't end up, you know, kind of in front of the ball, I pop it up in front of myself and then I can follow it. And then on my initial first touch catch, I'm also letting go of it for a second. And so you can see this allows me to keep it on top of my nose and keep it nice and controlled. And I have, you know, the full freedom to do whatever I want with this ball. So I just kind of sit in front of it and I just dunk the players. We have another example, another air dribble dunk. And you can see this is one off of a kickoff. So we're kind of doing like a back left kickoff here. You can see I definitely am using my acceleration to get the initial beat, right? Especially if I'm trying to get up and over a player quickly, I'm going to be accelerating and boosting through that, you know, so I can just get that, you know, beat right there. And now I'm letting go so that I can kind of sit above the ball here. And I'm not going to, if I drive into that, I'm going to most likely pinch it into the crossbar, right? It is truly a difference of how much I'm managing my own momentum. And you can see I end up just like dunking the player. And this player jumping and accelerating, right? He's accelerating and jumping. So his momentum's kind of going diagonal left in this spot, right? He doesn't get good contact and he ends up just getting like sat on, right? So this is what I think the difference is in terms of like aerial play. Now, one of my final examples is going to be like a flip reset where I let go of my acceleration. And you can see this is one of these times where, I don't have a lot of boost, right? So I have to be kind of boost efficient. So I also don't want to end up in front of the ball. So I'm not trying to go as fast as I can to a ball like this, right? There's no player up in the air. So I can really take my time, you know, kind of line this reset up, and I make sure I stick to it, right? As soon as I grab that reset, I don't want to be, you know, continuing my car's momentum forward. I want to be sitting underneath the ball. And you can see this allows me to kind of stick to it for a second. And then when I actually flip into it, it's almost like I'm shooting the ball, right? And from the defending POV, it's a very, very fast flip reset, right? It's difficult to save. And I didn't get a ton of scoop on it either, right? It's just underneath the bar. This is a flip reset, you know, position where I feel like you can definitely miss very easily if you get too much of a scoop on your flip reset, right? I mean, there is also the potential you could, you know, flip reset that to the backboard and then double tap it, but in this spot, when I don't have that much boost, I think it's the better idea to just kind of let go and make sure I shoot it underneath the bar. This is another spot where I feel like I could have played a beat, right? So we have another 2v2 example. And this is one of these spots where I let go just a tiny bit right before the interaction, right? So my car kind of peels off and absorbs, you know, the momentum that the other player is putting into the ball here, right? Because we arrive at the ball at the same time. It's not really a difference of, you know, who's getting there earlier. It's just that I think this player, and you can see, he even ends up like going like into the ball, like in a weird way, because he's consistently accelerating through this 50 the entire time. And you can see it provides me with like a stiff 50 within the air, which again, this is something I feel like players don't think about. And this allows me to, you know, get the dunk, and then I can use the rest of my boost to grab the reset and then shoot it on the other player. I mean, he could have saved it. It's not a great shot, but you see what I'm saying. Now, when we're talking in certain scenarios where you need very, very precise control, so in a spot that's very tight like this, right, there's not a lot of space to work with. I think a lot of players will, at the top level, will unconsciously be doing this, right? So you can see even on this initial pop here, I'm not accelerating, you know? And then even when I grab this reset, I'm also not accelerating. But then after I get it over one, I'm going to obviously accelerate and boost a little bit to try to stay in front of it. And this is one of these spots where, you know, I don't want to pop it too far away from myself, right? Because if I drive into that, I'm going to end up hitting that ball forward. And I feel like a lot of players, I will notice, do that in the lower ranks. So this allows me to keep, you know, a decent amount of control, and it's, you know, not a ball that the defender can really jump for, because I kept it very, very close to myself. Right, so even when the defender does jump, it allows me to get the outplay and 50 his other teammate. So now we have, you know, an example from a 1v1 game. And I want you guys to truly test this kind of thing yourselves, because for me, it made all the difference in terms of how I grab resets, right? You can see even my initial, like, I love to grab the first reset as soon as possible, you know, as soon as I pop that ball off the wall. And if I'm not accelerating, I just use the boost, I tend to get these like very stiff resets, and this allows me to grab, you know, another one like very, very quickly, right? And it gives me a better angle towards the net, and then I just use a musty to finish. And so you can see it's difficult from the opponent's POV, because, you know, by the time he gets the boost, I'm already grabbing 2 resets, and then, you know, he kind of has to decide. He has to play the guessing game, right? And it's difficult to kind of jump at something like this because you have the outplay the entire time, right? After the first reset. And so these controlled touches in these spots are a lot better to not accelerate through, right? Especially when you're trying to be creative with your mechanics, improvise with your mechanics. So one final example of a shot without accelerating. These are very, very overpowered in 1v1. You can see a nice little triple reset, and I'm able to get the shot around, right? So this is all because I'm not accelerating, right? I can keep the ball very, very close to myself, and then even on this, on the final shot, I'm able to kind of get like 2 touches. You know, I kind of get the catch and then the flip kind of around the player. And you can see from his POV, I'm not sure what he's doing on the initial backboard. I don't know if he's trying to fake like the ceiling shell. But you can see it's very difficult for him to even jump at anything. And for the final examples, I'll try to put these like side by side next to each other so you guys can kind of see the difference of what the touches look like. I'm going to try to control this and grab a single reset and then shoot the ball. I'm going to do one without accelerating and then one with acceleration. So you can clearly see that one of those examples puts me a lot further ahead of the ball, and one of those examples allows me to keep a lot more control of the ball. So this is something I encourage you guys to experiment with. It's helped me a bunch with, you know, kind of doing mechanics in the game. And you can truly decide. I'm not saying you can't do all those mechanics while, you know, accelerating, because it's definitely possible. But I think you'll surprise yourself with how much more control you can give yourself in certain scenarios and certain spots in the game if you don't accelerate. And it is a hard kind of muscle memory thing to break. Everyone is very used to just holding down the acceleration everywhere they go in the field. I would even encourage you guys to take 50s without accelerating, because it's honestly such a big difference for me as a player, someone who's been playing for 11,000 hours. So it's always nice to find these little you know, things we can still optimize in this game to this day. But yeah. All right, ladies and gents, that's going to do it for today's video. If you guys found this useful or enjoyable, please leave a like, share, and subscribe. Check that noti bell and join the Discord to stay up to date with when I post or go live. Much love as always. I appreciate you all. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one or in stream. Peace.